Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, well, not as always, with me on a Sunday. We used to do Sunday records quite a bit back in the day, actually, and haven't done that many in recent years. But it's Michele Berra. Michele, what's up?
Well, it's a great time of the year. We can't talk draft. We can still watch decent basketball, even if whatever. And so it's a great time.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I'm excited for this draft. I'm excited to see what the Thunder do specifically because it is. I honestly believe that this is just a flat draft through the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Sarr could be just as good as Saloon or Cody Williams or Steph Castle or any of those guys. Like I don't know how I really feel for NBA executives for this draft that are picking in the top 3.
Yeah.
Because how in the world do you just decide that like Risa Shea is better than Steph Castle or better than Buzelis or better than Connect? Like, how do you I think it is so hard because I've watched all of those guys. And to me, it's just like, man, they all have pretty significant flaws. And like trying to decide like who is like the best of all of those guys. It almost is, what archetype of player do you like best?
Yeah.
And then we'll go with that guy. Because I think that's kind of what's happened with Sarr is like he's this 7'1", center power forward that can move pretty well and has some perimeter skills, certainly, but can defend multiple positions. And, I like that archetype, but boy, does he have some flaws. And like, boy, is he not a perfect player. And is he a guy that is theoretical in so many ways that it's just like, man, I would not want to have the number 1 pick in this draft, especially after what we've seen over the past few years where you have, Paolo and Wemby and, even Cade Cunningham, where these like high powered number 1 change your franchise type of guys. And it's like, now you get to decide between Zachary Risachet and Alex Sarr. Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, it's not that you can do extremely bad in this draft. I mean, it's probably whatever from 1 to 15. It's the if only you could do this kind of draft. If only he could be like just a tiny little bit taller, like Reed Shepherd, or if he was just a little bit better of a shooter in Matas Buzelis. By the way, funny story. We were discussing. We just finished recording a podcast on Buzelis, which goes on the OKC Dream Team, and Andrew proposed a very bad trade involving Lou Dort. And in order to test my facial expression, he immediately zoomed on my face so that he could see if I was lying or not. Jokes aside, I think that it will be very interesting to see who wants to really get into this draft and maybe moving around, because it's a real question. OKC can do this, so let's focus on the Thunder. Like, they can really move around. They have all the assets to pick whoever they want. I truly believe that. Maybe not trading with the Hawks, because that would require like. Again, a real high leap of faith in our draft evaluators, but also like it's still the number 1 pick in the draft. But are we really going to trade someone who was productive this year and has upside, named Cason Wallace or Josh Giddey or guys like that, in order to move up in this draft? It's a very, very interesting. Or veterans. Like, are you trading Kenrich and Wiggins to maybe jump to the pick number 8, 9? For example, the Spurs with their 2nd pick. They might be looking for juggling that pick. Either move out or maybe move a little bit back and get some solid veterans to maybe help a little bit the Wembanyama new reign that is about to come. So it's to me, it's really interesting. I mean, Press is not shy. So I really think that if he likes a guy, and if the guy is there and the price is right, he will jump and get him. But I really wonder if in this draft he would actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would not. Like, I just straight up would not try to jump up in this draft. I know that it feels so, like when we look at these mock drafts and we look up the draft board, you think like, oh man, like that we should definitely, get up to get one of these guys because they're higher in because they're higher on draft boards. It must mean that they're higher, that they're going to be much better players than these guys going later. And like that's just not necessarily true. And
Yeah.
so
Look at last year. Like, are we really confident that the guys from pick number 4 to pick number 9 are going to be better than Lively and Wallace? And it may happen. Like the Thompson brother can still be better in 5 years.
Yeah, they could be. Anthony Black did not really play for the Magic.
Yeah.
Jarris
Walker, same.
is interesting. Jarris Walker doesn't play for the Pacers and really until crunch time doesn't play, or until garbage time doesn't play for the Pacers. Hendricks as well, who started to play a little bit toward the end of the season, but he didn't play a whole lot for Utah.
Yeah.
Lively and Case and Wallace have shown to be like two of the better guys so far.
Yeah.
And Jaime Jaquez, who went 18th.
Yeah.
I think you redo this draft today.
And Jet Howard.
Shout out Jet Howard. How in the world did he go 11th? Like the Magic are desperate for shooting. Like we could use anybody that can shoot it. Like please, somebody that can shoot the ball. And they're like,
there were 2 guys. Like
yeah, not him. Yeah, no thanks.
Just pick Grady Dick and he can shoot. He shot the ball okay. I mean, pick whoever. Like Jet Howard. Like
Jet Howard was a choice for sure. It was a choice to make.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do this draft again, I think Case Wallace jumps up. I think Lively jumps up. Obviously, Jaime Jaquez and Brandon Pajemski jump up. And probably the top 5 just stay as is.
Yeah.
With Wemby, Brandon Miller for sure was awesome this year. And I cannot believe, I think it was Perk that left him off his rookie team altogether. Like, oh my gosh. Like that is like a disastrous error to make. Like take away your vote kind of error.
Like, why?
Like there were stretches where he was like the best rookie,
Yeah.
Like why would you do that? Scoot, I still think like the pedigree and everything that he did prior to this year, and he got a little better as the year went on, but like you probably stick with that. Thompson twins have outrageous athleticism and talent. Like you roll that dice, and then you get to Anthony Black at 6, Case and Wallace instead.
Yeah,
who's just a better shooter and a guy, excuse me, that can defend and do everything that you need him to do. So, and then like you probably take Koulibaly there, but if you're the Pacers, if you could have Jaime Jaquez instead of Jarris Walker, you probably do that.
Maybe even the Wizards, they could get Lively. I mean, why not?
Yeah, if you're the Wizards, you probably take Lively. Yeah, that's totally true. And heck, if you're the Blazers, you might take Lively.
Maybe. I mean, it's a tad high, but who knows? I want to address something immediately because James Anderson, nice friend, longtime friend of the pod, any pod that I'm part with. So he suggests that Giddey for a decent swing may make sense because of the cap implication. And I just would want to use which is again not apple to apple, but the Harden cautionary tale. Like Harden was terrible in the finals, terrible. He wanted to get out on his team and whatnot. He wanted a max. I mean, OKC decided to move on. Giddey's not getting a max. He will not ask for a max, most likely. If he asks, then yeah.
He will not get him. He will not get a max.
He will not get a max for anybody in the league. He's not thought as a guy who can get a max.
Yeah.
But it's not that you have to make the decision now.
Yeah.
Like, you can wait. You can wait at least through the trade deadline. Like, why jumping on a draft that is not really the draft where you have the perfect player, and you're sure that it's not there at 12? Because again, go listen to the pod on Buzelis, but he's interesting, but maybe not perfect. And he was a guy that at the end of the Pelican series, we were all ready to say, oh, this is what we had in mind when we discussed the fit with the Giddey and his team, because it was awesome. It was just awesome. It was the secondary attacker. He was just putting pressure to him, nailing shots, defending pretty okay. It lasted 4 games in the playoffs. Look at what PJ Washington is doing right now against Mini. It's terrible. It's just terrible. He made a few plays, but it's overall horrible. He looked like the best player on the court against OKC. This happens to young players in this league. So again, I agree that the best version of Giddey is probably on a team that puts the ball in his hands the majority of the time, where he can play with spacing and just able to create and improve in terms of getting at the rim, having more space to do so, and stuff like that. I agree. But maybe there is a way to do 15 minutes of that in OKC. And before letting him go away, I would really see that failing, and where you're 100% sure that if you put Josh Giddey, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, whatever, and Charongan, that unit all out fails, and fails dramatically. Because if not, and if you get 15 minutes of that, and you compare Shea and Jade up more, then you have a killer lineup that can do like wonders, and that can allow Shea to play maybe 34 minutes in the regular season. So before moving away, I would really like to see that.
Well, and we also just don't know what the contract is. Like we don't know that it's 25. Like we don't know what the negotiation is going to be like. And like you said, you don't have to make a decision, this summer. You just don't have to. My sense from all of this is that Giddey's going to be back. He's going to be on this team. So, like, that's my sense of it all. And do I think that it would be beneficial for Giddey to move on? I do. I think like he could go to, if he played for the Wizards, I think everybody would have a drastically different impression of him, like what he can be and who he is as a player. Like I think he would probably be 18, 8, and 7, and that he would be outrageously impressive, and people would be talking about him. When you talk about the Wizards, that's who you talk about. And so I think if you're the Thunder, I think if
not talking about Johnny Davis, you mean?
Shout out Johnny Davis. Man, I
kind of like crush from the past. That was probably one of the most horrific
big draft fails for a lot of people.
Yeah, including us.
Yeah, he hoodwinked a lot of us for sure. If your goal is to have playmakers all over the floor, and for you to be different than almost anybody else, I think that Giddey is a player that you see it through a little bit more. And I understand, I think the reasons why people are ready to move on. One, it's Presti's tendency to not want players to get to restricted free agency. And yeah, if you don't extend him, he's going to go to restricted free agency. And then what happens? Like, then are the Wizards going to make a big fat offer for him? Like, maybe they would. And then, are you going to have to match that? Like, you either match it or you let him go. I mean, yeah, you put yourself in a bind, which is why Presti doesn't like guys to get to restricted free agency. And we saw it with Cantor. Cantor, part of the reason they traded for him was because he was restricted and that you could figure it out with him. But, Cantor made a lot of money in restricted free agency, a lot more than a lot of people thought he should have. and it all worked out fine for the Thunder. It was not something crazy detrimental to them. You could question making the trade for Cantor in general, if you want, but the contract was one that they were able to offload. And, you know, I mean, Schroeder was really helpful to this team. They had Melo,
Yeah.
that was really cool to have Melo, and not necessarily helpful, but very cool to have Melo.
It was also helpful. I mean, that season was probably, I mean, we discovered that Dre was immensely important and that rely on one guy to set your defense was not ideal.
Yeah.
Melo, I mean, there were moments where that team was just rolling and they lost their footing, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
No, and I agree. I mean, and why Ennis was not such a disaster of a contract, because someone offered that, and so
Yeah.
the value in terms of his perception in the league was not that far off that contract. And if you get that, then it's probably likely that if everything fails, you still have a contract that maybe with 1-2 second rounders you can really get rid of, like OKC did, trading for a guy that they needed. So I think that if in June someone offers a max to Giddey, it's a great news, like an awesome news. Could you got it for less? Sure, but it's the cost of opportunity. Are you willing to maybe lock 25 millions now, or if it blossoms into someone that is a max player, you have a max player in June. Like
Yeah.
it's I know that it sounds crazy to think that Giddey can even have an all-star level year, but he's 21. Like, just imagine how crazy people would go if Giddey is in this draft. Like, he would be number one by like probably every evaluator, because he's a player that can make sense in this league. And again, the shooting improved dramatically, especially the free throw shooting, which is the proxy for 3-point shooting, which is why Lou Dort got better, which is why, not why, which is, I mean, Lou Dort got better at free throw first and 3-point later. And if in a year and a half, Giddey averages 37% from three, then are you really, really sure that this is not a fit for the Thunder? Knowing that in a season where he had 3 months of atrocious basketball, the starting unit for OKC was still probably number one or number two in being the best starting unit in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think these are all really good points, and I really think they are going to wait on Josh, and let him develop, and maybe they do find an extension this summer. Maybe there's a team-friendly extension that exists where because I mean, the thing is, if you're going to continue to draft really well, and become a team that has like the top 3 guys plus Giddey plus Case and Wallace plus whoever they draft in this upcoming draft.
You said top 4 or top 3 guys?
Huh?
You said top 4 or top 3?
I don't know what I said. What did I say? Top.
No, because I was just it was just curious to me that you are not mentioning Dort, but it's okay.
Yeah, Dort's in there too. If you're going to have that team, it's going to get really expensive really soon. It's going to get really, really expensive.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. It's like somebody will have to sacrifice. And so you wonder, like, if Josh really, the thing about Josh is like, if he wants to stick around, there was going to have to be some sacrifice. Obviously, there's on-court sacrifices that he has to make to stick around here.
I think he made them in terms of he's not complaining.
Yeah,
which is really something.
Listen, he's been making the on-court sacrifices.
Yeah.
That has been pretty consistent, that he has made on-court sacrifices. And is he willing to continue to do that? I think is definitely something that we will have answered over the summer. If he is unwilling to make the on-court sacrifices, this is the time where you say, let's find a different place for me.
Yeah.
This is where we find a reset, because he's about the same draft age as a lot of the guys in this current draft.
Mm-hmm.
Or like you send him somewhere else. Like, yeah, he's not that much older than Donovan Clingan. Obviously Dalton Knecht is like 2 years older than him. He's
2
about the
years.
same age. Yeah, 2 years. Of a guy
Tristan Da Silva as well, like 1.5.
Yeah. Da Silva's 23.
Yeah.
He's about the same age as Jared McCain and Flip. Devin Carter is a year older than him. Zach Edey is a year older than him. So, like, Deron Holmes, who's played for Dayton, is a little bit older than Josh Giddey.
Yeah.
So I think that giving him a little bit more time is not unreasonable, but it's going to take sacrifice for him to be here, because the offensive sacrifices are not going to come from Shea, Chet, or J-Dub, and they shouldn't come from those guys. It will come from Josh Giddey. And like Josh expressed at the end of this season that he wants to be part of this team, that he enjoys being part of this team. Great. If that's
it's a verbal commitment, yes.
If that's how you feel, then like you're going to have to and he has sacrificed a lot. He came off the bench in the Mavs series, took it on the chin, and really did all that he could to be the best teammate that he could be. Really had some good perspective on it after the season. That was very impressive. It was very, very impressive. And if like that's the guy that you're getting, and he's willing to make sacrifices, and he's willing to be part of this team, like, wow, that's great. San Antonio, whenever they had their long run that started with Tim Duncan, that transformed into this Tony Parker Manu team, like those guys sacrificed to stay together.
Yeah.
And they had to, and they did. And it gave them room to kind of add, pieces here and there. Like, I think Josh being willing to sacrifice is like a real question. It's easy to say all of that after the season's over. It's harder to say it all when you sit down at the negotiation table. It's hard when you have an agent who is not only looking out for your best interest monetarily, but their own best interest monetarily. So it's
how percentage works.
Yes, it becomes very complicated very fast.
And I think that there are. No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, some of this will be interesting because his parents are going to be a huge part of the conversation too. He's still a really young person who needs help and guidance, in all of this. And his dad, if you look at the kinds of teams that his dad was part of in Australia, his dad was always kind of like the team connector, does the dirty work, played for really, really talented teams apart, and was like the ultimate teammate. And Josh even mentioned him when it came to, what helped turn him around. He said it was his dad, and his dad was, here throughout the playoffs and like at all the games and everything, and very present, at parts of the regular season too. And his dad was like this like big, goon, like glue guy, and his dad like helped kind of like turn him around with as far as like being a teammate. And so you just like wonder if like his parents would even, one, really like the situation for their son, and then two, tell him like, hey, there's something special brewing here in OKC. Like, you may need to sacrifice something in order to be a part of it, And so you just wonder. And like, that's not source. That's just me. Like, that's just all conjecture. That's like all pure conjecture of like what this could be. And so you just wonder, Josh he's also an international player that, a lot of those guys have loyalty to the franchises that draft them. And so you you wonder about that as well. And so I think there's a lot of factors that will lead to wherever Josh goes next. Um, I like I said, my feel for it is that Josh will be on the Thunder next year. Like that's my feel for it. Do do I see the case that probably um, Josh needs to go somewhere else and that the Thunder could move on from him? Yes. Like I can definitely see that side of it. Like I could totally get it, you know, where it makes sense for the Thunder to go after somebody like a Cam Johnson and, Giddey gets to be on a team in Brooklyn where one you get to live in New York, which is very cool.
Seems
Um,
cool. Yeah.
um, and you get to be part of a franchise that's kind of like trying to find its way, and Josh gets to be like the guy with the ball in his hands and
Yeah.
he and Mikal Bridges would fit really well together, and if you have shooters like Dorian Finney-Smith and players, on the wing like that, if you kept Nick Claxton, like pick and roll big, that like you can see like why that would work really well for him.
Yeah.
And if he got traded there and was a restricted free agent with them, like yeah, like you could see why, that would work and why that would be the way to go. And then if you're the Thunder, like getting Cam Johnson, a guy that can really, really shoot it, you know, and is not going to be a downgrade defensively. It's like,
No,
okay,
rebounding wise, yes, but it's
he's a
something that
bad
you,
he's a bad rebounder. There's no
yeah,
doubt about it. He's a bad rebounder. Um, which will definitely it's not good. Like he's not the ideal player. Like there's some definite reasons why you wouldn't want Cam Johnson. However, like the shooting would be unbelievable. Like the Thunder
yeah,
offense would be unbelievable with a guy like that in there. It's just like this ultimate play finisher that's sitting in the corner, and you cannot leave him because if you
yeah.
do, they're gonna find him, and it's like death for you. You know,
Sudden death. Yes. I have two extra points on Guinea, then maybe we can move on. The first one is there is a competition in this summer, which is pretty important to how Giddy and many other players, including
Mhm.
Shea, feel about their next role into this league. Um, First of all, I want to say that I planned all my vacation to watch the Olympics. They are usually in the middle of August. So I took 2 weeks in the middle of August to stay just home in the mountains, just watching TV. They are the end of the July and the first week of August. So I'm pretty miffed and peeved that I didn't that I didn't check the starting date of the Olympics. So I will watch much less because I have to work. But anyhow, um, if Giddey plays well, and playing well, it's not what happened in the World Cup. It's really playing better. It's maybe being one of the top 10 players in the Olympics, which may happen, especially if they construct a team that works around him.
Yeah.
If that happens, then I do feel that this change the equation quite a bit because I can't think already after the World Cup. There were talks. Hey, can you see how Giddey looks when he has the ball? Can you imagine if he does that in the Olympics? Maybe if Australia is a little bit better, because if Australia fails in the first stage and whatever, and he looks great, but the team doesn't look great, then it's okay. But if they move up a little bit and maybe face either Team USA and Team Canada and they compete, then it's a story that will probably change the equation quite a bit. And second is, I think that if you can get him on a team friendly deal, which is probably something around 20-ish, maybe front loaded, I think that especially if it is front loaded, which is something that young players hate because it will reduce the possibility to get a better contract later, or if it's flat, which is
Mhm.
again something that you can probably do, then it's not a bad deal. I mean, I just saw the numbers of Shea Supermax extension. It's $80 million,
Mhm.
like 80 millions.
Yep.
Like, this is how contracts will look in 2028.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like a ton of money now, but it's also something that is not going to be looking like this in the future. It's going to be like a hair above the MLE in 2028, 2029, probably.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's probably
so you always have to make the entire calculation and see, okay, how does it look now, and what are the opportunities? Because I don't feel like that if the right opportunity, and it may be Cam Johnson, I'm not enamored with that fit, but
yeah.
because of the rebounding mainly, he's a tall guard. It's not a wing. So if you can get the perfect player for Josh Giddey, then well, okay. If it's the perfect player, it is the perfect player, and that's starting to be even better. But just to trade it for the sake of trading him and changing for the sake of changing, then I don't think that is a good principle. And I thought hard about who are the guys that can really make a difference for OKC. There are not many that you can get.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, you basically have to look at like losing teams,
Yeah.
that have players, which like Brooklyn's one of them, which is why you think about Dorian Finney-Smith and you think about Cam
Yeah.
Johnson. I don't think Mikhail's gettable. Like we can talk about Mikhail, but like I don't
No.
think you're getting him. And then it's like Denny Avdia, like is like
It's wah, wah, wah. Like, okay, he may be okay, but are you really trading it for Danny Advia? Maybe only because of the contract. But I think if you really want Advia, you can get Advia. You don't have to sacrifice Giddey.
yeah,
It's
probably not. Yeah,
just pay picks and vets if you need, and absorb him in the 30 millions of space that you have.
yeah,
Why trading Giddey?
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a risk, It's definitely a risk. So yeah, I think like the most likely outcome is that Giddey comes back and they draft somebody at 12 and they make a move around the fringes. Like I think like that is like the most likely outcome of this offseason.
Yeah.
And the thing about in like watching this playoffs, like it makes me think like they're not that far away.
Oh no.
They're not. Like I don't know how. One, I don't know how if you're the Thunder, you look at what happened this season. You look at what's happening in the playoffs right now. Where, like the Mavs are looking like they're going to go to the NBA Finals. The Thunder were
Yeah.
not that far away from beating the Mavs. I don't know how you could look at what happened this year and think we need to make some big changes. We need to make some big changes. I think there's nothing that happened this year that makes me think that something vastly different needs to happen next season. Can you improve on the margins? Can you give yourself a better look with a big? This is why I like drafting Flip, because like he gives you like a, a look at a bigger lineup that I think might work, that has a potential to work a little bit better than the J Will one. And he's just being a lot bigger, I think helps.
Yeah.
I think like that is something that you look at.
Yeah, if you want to point to one issue that was clearly there for the entire playoffs, if you want to say, okay, the Pelican series is what it is, I don't want to count it. I think it's wrong, but let's say it's okay. I mean, the lineups with Jay Will were horrific for the entire playoffs and not great in the regular season. That is a place that if you want to really, I mean, lineups with Chet Holmgren for the entire playoffs, Dallas included, were extremely positive.
Mm-hmm.
The backup center thing is a problem, is a real problem. And I don't think that you can ask to Jay Will to be the guy next year. I think it's far away from being the guy who anchored the second unit, mainly because the guys are used to play a certain way defensively when Chet is on the court. And if
Mhm.
you can replicate part of that, then stuff are improving quite a bit. Those
Mhm.
units were negative by a substantial margin. Like, this is not something that you can look and say, yeah, okay, they will be better. No, 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 no. This is there is something more to that. And the fact that this team went from a middle of the pack in terms of net rating last year without Chet, to one of the best team net rating wise, it's Chet Holmgren.
Mhm.
So you need to really think, how can we get better when Chet is on the court, and how can we survive when Chet is not on the court? How can we play normal basketball? You don't have to win those minutes as well. You have to coast through those minutes and sustain whatever, which didn't happen.
Yeah.
Giddey without Giddey. So I do think that is an issue. That is something that you can fix by acquiring veterans. Which one? I don't know. There is a scarcity of defensive centers who can shoot threes and space the court. There is one who may be gettable, especially if Milwaukee somehow wants to redo certain things, which is Brook Lopez, who I have no idea who has an appetite to be serviceable for a young team for a year, or if he just wants to stay with grown-ups in on the East Coast, or wherever it is he is. There are not many of these guys. Miles Turner, nobody is trading Miles Turner now.
Yeah.
So you may get Nick Claxton, but the spacing is
You're not though. You're not though. Like, they're not going to pay. They're not going to pay for Nick Claxton this summer. He's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, he's making a lot of money.
Make a whole lot of money.
Yeah. Hartenstein will make probably a lot of money as well. Do you want to have Jonas Valanciunas for 12 million a year?
No.
I'm not completely against that.
I am completely against that.
I know, because you think that Jonas is a prima donna, that he's not a great defender, who is actually true. I do think that the guys like that, if the price is right and you surround him with the nice lineup, they can be serviceable, and you can just be okay. Jonas was still the center who had the best net rating against the Thunder. It was bad, but I mean, I don't understand hey, let's get Larry Nance. I mean, Jonas is a much better player, and the Pels were much better with him on the court. He's not the reason why they lost the series. I think they lost the series because they shot like crap and they weren't able to really stop anything. So it's get one stopgap center who is, and allow J. Will to grow. I think that is a priority. And again, I'm not enamored with Jonas. It's not that there are many that you can get.
Yeah. Talking about trading for Vooch?
Vooch, I hate Vooch, so I would not like Vooch. I think he's horrible. He's much worse than Jonas. Jonas is a great rebounder. Just the fact that you can control the rebounds when he's on the court, and you can just feed him on the post sometimes. Is it the way in which OKC wants to play? Absolutely not.
No.
I know. No. Can Jonas shoot threes? Possibly. As well as J. Will.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you mostly. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Like, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if you want to be relying on a rookie big. Like, I don't know that Flip is necessarily even the right guy. Because, like, are you really going to bring in a rookie and give him a role like that? Like, I don't know. I mean, they gave one to Casey Wallace, but you got to be ready for it. And, like, is Flip ready for something like that? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But
center is the hardest role to starting in play. This is why Chet was insanely good and lively. It's not easy.
And Wemby. Like,
and Wemby, yes.
It's insane. Because, like, even look at Evan Mobley. It's like taken Evan a little while, which is more normal. You know, what those three centers did this season, Chet, Wemby, and Derek Lively, is very unusual. Very, very unusual. High level stuff from those three. Like, you gotta, I mean, what a year for those three. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of the mind that like I just don't think like this draft pick is gonna really fix anything for the Thunder. Like I really think like if they want to fix something, it's got to be via trade probably.
Mhm.
And also like the truth is like there's not a whole lot to fix. You have the best
Yeah.
net rating in the Western Conference. You're the number 1 seed in the West. You took a team in the Mavs who looks like a title contender now to 6 games and like we're a foul in the corner away from going to game 7 with them,
Or a Derek Jones Jr. fade away,
or a stupid
turn around, fade away.
that if you pause that shot like in the middle of it and like went up to Jason Kidd and you were able to do this where you just able to just pause everything like Zach Morris style from Saved by the Bell, and like you and Jason Kidd are the only two that are unfrozen. You're like, hey, how do you like this shot? Jason Kidd, give him the mic. Be like, I hate this shot. This is the worst shot.
And
Like,
if you look at if you go the same way to Mark Diggle and say, hey, how do you qualify your defense? It was the end of the shot clock. He would say, this is perfect. This is exactly how we should play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Swish.
you go over to Mark and be like, yeah, this is what we want. If you were to draw up what we want, it's a Derek Jones fadeaway during moments like this of the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't think the Thunder are extremely smart and they are very driven by their process. Do we really really think that the Thunder organization is just going to be like, let's make some big changes this summer. Let's do some big trades and like let's straight up in the draft. Let's do like no. Like if anything, for the Thunder, you should like really double down on like your direction.
Yeah, exactly.
In your process. And I think they will. And it doesn't mean that they're just going to sit on their hands all off season. But like I don't think you could go through and like honestly go back and listen to some of our podcasts that we did at the beginning of the season. And like listen to the kinds of conversations that we're having. Where I think it was Mike Prada, my friend and colleague that picked the Thunder to be 3rd in the West and 50 wins. We thought that was insane.
Insane, yes.
We thought that was like at the high level of like what like but they won't do it. That would be really cool.
We said that 46 win was exciting.
I know. And they won
57.
They won 11 more than what we thought was exciting.
Yeah.
So like I just think like trying to get some perspective, which is hard to do, but I think it's really important as a fan of this team. And also like try to put yourself in the shoes of Presti and their crew and think about the way that they've operated. Like I just don't think that we're headed toward major changes, and they shouldn't be headed toward major changes because there's just no need to do it. Zach Collins is somebody that Skywalker brings up. Yeah, I like Zach Collins. I think like that would be a good guy to bring off the bench. Not that he and Chet would be great on the court together, but I think just having a backup center like that, who's got some size, who's kind of a goon, who like if, in a moment in a playoff game where you need somebody to be physical, like, like I like that idea. I think he's somebody that we even brought up last season during the season. He makes $16 million. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. How many years?
2 years left.
Yeah, it's okay. And also watching the Minnesota versus Dallas series, I have full, and I wasn't sure while watching the Thunder, but Mark Daigneault coached the series almost perfectly.
Yeah, he did very well.
Defensively,
the game plan was tremendous. It just didn't go like it would have. If you played that series 100 times, it probably goes just like that, maybe 10 times.
Yeah. I think that OKC gave their best chance, and it was the right way to play Luka and Kyrie. Yeah. And if Dallas lucks out with PJ and Derek Jones, credit to them because they did trust them.
Your hat.
They did trust those guys a lot, and they delivered. OKC trusted Lou Dort, Giddey, Kaysen, Joe. and they delivered a bit less. This is the reality. They delivered a bit less. Charongan delivered a bit less offensively, and that's it. It was like 2 shots in 2 games that made the difference. It's not a huge margin. So
No.
it's really the moment to, as you mentioned, double down.
Yeah.
And looking for opportunities, because there might be. If the Brook Lopez agent says, "Hey, I really don't want to spend another season in Milwaukee. Please get my client there. He loves the way you're playing. Please, whatever you have to do. He is bought in. He wants that. Hey, take him. He would be the best backup center that you can get because he plays the exact way you want."
Oh my gosh, he'd be amazing. And that's like I just don't think that's happening.
Of course, it's not happening. I mean, I mean, of course. But if something like that happens, do you really think that Press says, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that"? I don't think that happens. So
yeah, I agree. All right, thanks so much for listening to our show. We will be back Wednesday to talk with Alex about more off-season stuff, and yeah, we'll talk more draft. We'll talk more off-season. We'll talk about what's going on in the playoffs. Still a lot going on. We will have a draft party, so keep your ear to the ground for draft party. It will be very fun. I mean, they have a lottery pick. It's like we got to show up and hang out together and watch what's going on in the draft. It's usually one of our biggest events of the year. So be sure to keep your eye out for we'll have a location soon. Hopefully in the next week we'll have that nailed down. So hope you guys have a great Sunday and a great Memorial Day, and we will talk to you guys again on Wednesday.